My goal is to read 40 books this year. Here, say what up real quick.
Hi.
My goal is to read 40 books during this year, and I've already started to cook up and read a decent amount. I don't know if that's too high of a number or if it's too low. So I'm keeping track of it on Goodreads. If you have Goodreads, please feel free to follow so that I can connect with you right back. But today I'm gonna basically be talking about some of my recent book pickups, as well as some of my favorite books that I've read so far. And then if you have any suggestions about what you think I should read or what I should be looking out for, leave it in the comments below. Welcome to Mostly Andre. Let's talk books. First, I want to show off my Kindle Basic. I have shown this in a video before, but I got a clear case instead of the case that kind of flaps over and turns on and off for you. And I got trunks right there. Big fan of Dragon Ball Z, so anytime, anywhere I can rep, I'm a rep. I have Goodreads kind of shown on there, so that's going to be my point of reference. So maybe I'll just say 3 books. I'll suggest 3 without giving spoilers about it. One of them is The Hobbit. The Hobbit feels like you're wearing a warm blanket and you're right by a cozy fire. For those who have not heard of The Hobbit or heard of Lord of the Rings, you are in a wonderful place. For those who have heard of it and you're intimidated to start Lord of the Rings, to start any of those book series, The Hobbit is such a beautiful, easy prologue to step into it without being fully intimidating, because people can hear it. I used to hear it and I was like, I like the movies, but the pages are just so long, there's no way that I could get into that. But I promise you, if you like The Hobbit, there's something in there for you for Lord of the Rings. But Hobbit is my first suggestion. Second one would be Razorblade Tears by S.A. Cosby. S.A. Cosby has so much talent. I'm bummed that I haven't heard of him earlier, but I'm excited that I'm starting to read his books now. Razorblade Tears takes 2 families, takes 2 men who are of different races, who are connected by one tragic event, and you get to then see how they navigate it. So how does race impact the way that they attack this? How does socioeconomic status impact the way that they do this? How is their relation in terms of being formerly incarcerated impact them? There's a lot in there, and I just think it is brilliant. And the last one that I'll suggest is Dark Matter by Blake Crouch, I believe. And once again, since I'm a little bit newer to the fiction reading journey, a lot of these books I've been suggested, and so I think that's just been a lot of fun to do that. And there's a lot of literature and people reviewing and going backwards, but I know that there's some of my friends who haven't heard of these books, and so it's cool that I can continue that train and suggest it. So Dark Matter is a lot of fun as well. My cousin actually suggested to me to watch the show, and then months later when I got into reading, I was like, let me just read the book first. I would also say it's cool to not know as much detail going into it, but I'll just say the genre is sci-fi and surrealism, and you have the perspective of a man living an ordinary life that might not be so ordinary. So those are the 3 that I suggest. I might pop on some other ones during this video, just screenshots of my Goodreads ratings, just so you can kind of see what I've been rating and the genres that I like. But that's been a lot of fun. The other thing that I like to mention is that I do enjoy reading multiple things at once. And so that could either be a mix of doing something nonfiction and fiction, or that could be a mix of doing fiction, nonfiction, and always a graphic novel, which has been so much fun. It's been awesome reintroducing comics. I grew up very much into comics, and I've fallen off a while ago, so I'm not caught up with current Marvel, DC, or Image. But I do like going backwards and reading some of them. And I made a video a little bit going back about Walking Dead Compendium, waiting for the second one that's coming in the mail. I cleaned up the first one, I waxed that off quick. It was a lot of fun, really good. Want to make a quick interjection. This morning when I woke up, I checked the mail, and Walking Dead Volume 2 Compendium came in, which is awesome. I brought it to work with me. I didn't read it all day. Ironically, when I did read it, it was because for those of us who live in Denver, those y'all watching, I-25 can be backside crazy sometimes. So it took me on some back roads where I was at the lights, start and stop. So I actually read probably like 20-30 pages on the way home, as safely as I could do something like that. And I am just remembering again how unreal it is. Spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't read. Warning, warning. All right. Carl during the time when Rick was sick, it was crazy starting to see his character development. I forget what's gonna happen next, and I know I'll remember as I read, but fire. There are different bookstores that I've been enjoying going to and experiencing for the first time here in Denver, and the most recent one I went to was the Broadway Book Mall. So I had a great pickup at that. I had a bunch of them, and I mentioned that in one of my old videos as well. These next books that I got recently was through birthday money and just through more used bookstores. And so even though I've not read them yet, these are gonna be my to-be-read books. The first one was a graphic novel, and I actually ended up finishing this one last night. It was a little bit over 100 pages, so it was nice and easy. This one is called The Lottery by Shirley Jackson. Shirley Jackson should be a familiar name to those who have seen The Haunting of Hill House or who have read it. I still haven't read the book, but since the show came out, I've probably watched it 2 or 3 times. Season 1 is so good. Well, I guess there's only one season, and then the other one is the Haunting of Blair or something. I forget what the second show adjacent is called, but The Haunting of Hill House is amazing. I knew I wanted to try out Shirley Jackson The Lottery. When I saw that there was a graphic novel edition, I was like, let me get that one first. I'll still end up reading it, but I know the originals collection of short stories written by Shirley Jackson. For this one, I'd say this was great, and it was grim. Next, we got Stoner by John Williams. I know, kind of hearing about the books or hearing, what was the other one John Williams had? Butcher's Crossing. So I've heard little details about this one. I know that this one is about a man who has the last name Stoner, right? William Stoner. And so, or I don't know the guy's name, but I know Stoner is in his name. And so it's kind of going through his teaching life, academic life, romantic life. But a lot of people have said that they've connected with him from what I can read online. I loved the cover of this one. There are different covers that I've seen for John Williams books where it's kind of, it looks artsy, but I saw one of those copies of books when I went to a bookstore recently, and I didn't like how the font was laid out. And it's just a really cool album cover. It looks like an album cover. It kind of looks like Alt J, but I love the way that it looks. What I am currently reading, shout out to my homie Jonathan, who's kind enough to know that I started to read a little bit more, and he said that I should read this one. This one is Project Hail Mary, and this one is by Andy Weir, or otherwise known as the author of The Martian. I love how this book feels. I mean, it's hard to kind of tell when you're there, but the pages kind of just flow like butter. I went into this one fairly blind. Jonathan gave me a little bit of explanation, but I would say, because I'm only that far in. Also, talking about repping Dragon Ball Z, this is my current bookmark. Ginyu Force Frieza, come on. It's been cool going in this blind because with the protagonist, he's also blind, not physically blind, but events are happening and he has no clue what's happening. And me reading it, not knowing too many of the details, I'm experiencing the same thing almost through his eyes. For those who are really in the book reading community consistent, there's a theme of me being a couple years behind of maybe some books that trend, but I think that's the point with books, is that if we just keep reading them, we're gonna keep this cyclical theme going of even when the years are passing, people should still be reading of Mice and Men or The Pearl by John Steinbeck. Like, there are all these really, Moby Dick, like there are these great books. And so I, who have never known men, I know that's one that also goes around. I had a great time with that one, and I was frustrated, but not at any, the writing was brilliant. I was frustrated at not being in the know. So that's all I'll say about that one. Speaking of classics, we got East of Eden. Also talking about John Steinbeck once again. Yeah, it looks like 500 pages. So that's the thing though, because my goal is, I think I said 40 books at the beginning. They're 30 or 40 by the end of the year. I read a lot of shorter books, and so I keep that in mind. And then I just have to make sure that I'm pacing myself when I do read something that's a little bit heftier like this. I mean, even the Lord of the Rings books, those were hefty ones to read back to back to back to back because of The Hobbit as well. And so that's why I started pacing, and I was like, if I can hit the 300 pages, like that is right up my alley. If I end up flying through this, I've heard that this has been really enjoyable. He's swagging. He got the stash going. He's smoking cigs. No shout out to the cig. I'm sorry. No shout out for that. Shout out to the stash, it's pretty fire. I'm very excited to see what this is about. I know that this is about two families and that there's maybe parallels to Cain and Abel in some way, or biblical allegories there, so I'm fascinated. This will probably be later in the year. This kind of feels like a November book for no reason. Maybe it just looks the colors or something, but I'm excited to do that too. All right, future Andre coming through one more time because I have one last pickup that I wanted to show off for this haul. Here we go. Got the Akira soft cover set. Sheesh. They had a 35th anniversary edition that's hardcover, but you know I ain't about it. If you don't know that I'm not about hardcover, now you do. But this is the Akira set. It's beautiful. I'm excited to kind of unwrap it and show it off, but this will join my graphic novel to be read section. It's one of those crazy things because I have not seen Akira, and that is one of the most classic ones. Not only has it shaped modern anime in general, but also even Kanye West, or aka He Who Shall Not Be Named. He based off a lot of his fashion, I think during the 808s and Heartbreaks era, based off of Akira as well. So Akira is timeless, and I'm gonna read this and then watch the movie this year. All right, cool, let's get it. Right now, I'm less or so interested in reading book series. I've had people try to tell me Brandon Sanderson and Way of Kings and all these different ones. I don't know how he cooks so many books up, but when I look at those and I see there are 1,000 pages and there are a bunch of books in the series, that makes me less inclined to want to read. A lot of these, a self-contained story, except for graphic novels. The Walking Dead, I'm gonna get all those compendiums and go back through them. I'm okay with that. But when it comes to a series, I'm not in the mode right now for a series. I'm more so like, how can I have a self-contained story? Split it up, split it up, split it up, keep it going. Oh, I also did want to mention though, I did pick up Dune. I'm also excited to read and hear about. And I just heard a fact the other day that when Tolkien was alive, and he is the one who wrote Lord of the Rings, that Frank Herbert, who wrote Dune, sent his manuscript about Dune to Tolkien, and Tolkien basically said something along the lines of, if you have nothing kind to say, then don't say anything at all, which is kind of nuts to think about. But I take that as some encouragement, and the encouragement that I say is, if Frank Herbert only listened to one man, which a lot of us respect and see, he wouldn't have released Dune, and look at what Dune is now. I'm excited to read the book. I liked part 1 and part 2 of the movies. Part 2 was especially heat. But I take that as encouragement, just the things that you're excited about and doing. Sometimes people won't see the vision, but if you are passionate and you're pushing, that's all that matters. So yeah, I'm super excited to continue reading and just hopefully have that as a rhythm in my life. I don't know how much that changes in the future, Lord willing, with kids or whatever that looks like, but for now, this is in my flow. And so thank you for listening in. If you have any thoughts about the books that I mentioned or showed on screen, or if you have any suggestions about what I should look out after I go through this backlog and then I start moving back through, please let me know. I'd love to have more discussions about it. Follow me on Goodreads, interact in a way that's genuine if you want, but if not, more power to you. Thank you so much for watching. This has been Mostly Andre. Drink some water, have some fun, go do something creative. I'll catch you later.